So the polarity of the bump, that is how the height map's interpreted, is for the most part arbitrary, because you have the option, if we go into the material lab here, of changing from -100 bump to +100 bump, and provided that both these are in the same sense, then there is no problem with that. So if we just swap that round, you can see we've swapped the sense of the height map, except in this case you might see that perhaps this one looks better that way around and that one looks better the other way around. I'll just swap that back so you can see what I mean. Okay, so what do you do about that situation where you want the height map on this one to be one way and then the height map on this one to be the other way? Well, as it happens, there's quite an easy way of swapping this round in the texture source editor when it's pictures. It is a little bit more difficult if you're trying to swap bump maps round with the procedural function, so it's easier to swap the texture function around. This control here inverts it, so this black white control, click on that once, that inverts your height map, and now you can have them in alignment. So at the moment that's, I would say, the least favourable choice, but if I go back in here I can just invert the bump. If we want to get this out of this range, you can actually type in values that are higher. So if you wanted a more extreme bump value, you can't pull that in on the slider, but you can just by typing a figure in there, and then you can get them both pointing the same way for your render. So there you go, there's a very simple way to invert the height map when it's height map that's for the picture editor. If you've got a procedural function mixed with a picture, it's generally speaking easier to invert the picture and then just invert the polarity of the bump in the material lab, rather than going into the deep texture editor and trying to figure out a way of inverting the bump channel in the deep texture editor. So there you go, a simple tip to invert your picture height maps.